When there's no more room in hell, the dead will listen to Bloodfest, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to Bloodfest Extra. I'm your host, Nate, and tonight I'm joined by Stephen Vaughn, an actual Ghostbuster. Hi, Stephen. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I don't think we had the pleasure of shaking hands
No,
before.
we have not yet. No, because Joey was just like, don't even pay attention to Nate. You don't even know who he is. Just get over here and do stuff. So for the people watching on YouTube, you'll notice that Steven has an entire Ghostbusters proton pack over here, and he is dressed fully like Winston Zeddemore. I just picked Winston because he's my favorite.
Well, I actually relate more to Winston anyway.
He's like the audience. He's our eyes. He's our ears. Yeah,
he's the everyday man, just like we are.
Yeah,
he's not
exactly.
a scientist. He doesn't have any PhDs or anything. He's just like us. Just comes in off the street looking for a job, but ends up falling in love with it, like we all fall in love with Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly. So when did your interest in Ghostbusters start?
I would have to say since I was a kid.
Okay.
As far as I can remember, back in early 90s, because I was born in 90, and when I first was exposed to Ghostbusters, my dad had recorded on a VHS tape. VHS, for those that don't know, they're cassettes, you know. Those were
you had to rewind them, and they wore out if you watched them too many times.
They did, absolutely. Yeah. He had recorded Ghostbusters. It was on TV, and of course, back then, there were different types of movies that get like special types of cuts that would remove some of the curse words and certain scenes, like when Ray's in the bed with the ghost. That was cut on TV.
Yeah.
I had no idea that existed. But he had recorded it, and I'd always used to watch it, and I'd love watching it. And so that was really, I'd say, my first exposure to Ghostbusters. And I don't know what it was, but it was just something really spoke to me, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then one Christmas, like I had happened to look in the back of the car, and I wasn't supposed to be looking back there, but it was open. So I'm looking in the back, and I see Ghostbusters VHS cassette, all in its packaging and everything else. I mentioned to my dad and my mom, and oh, that's for these needy kids. So that's how they used to hide things from us. And of course, me being a naive little child, I believed it, but not entirely. So when I opened it up Christmas morning, I knew. And then I actually got to see Ghostbusters in all of its glory, with everything. And the ghost in bed with Ray. But I saw everything uncut, and I was just enthralled with it and loved it from the get-go.
So did you enjoy the Ghostbusters cartoon?
The real Ghostbusters? Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. That actually kind of coincides with one of the main reasons I started cosplaying as ghostbusting, but I'm sure we'll get to that later. But yeah, real Ghostbusters and the Extreme Ghostbusters. And I know nobody had a proton pack growing up. I mean, we had the Kenner packs, the blue ones. But when Extreme Ghostbusters came out, there were the proton packs that were to resemble the Extreme Ghostbusters packs. Me and my brother got one for Christmas, and of course, I would wear it whenever we were watching Ghostbusters. And then me and my brother, when the credits started rolling with the Ghostbusters theme song, me and him start jumping around with the proton packs on, and it was just a blast, like figuratively and literally.
God, I had so I'm a little older than you, a lot older than you. So I had the Ghostbusters soundtrack on vinyl when it came out when I was a kid, and I think my parents eventually hated that music because I played it constantly.
Oh, I'm always doing that in my Ecto all the time. Even when I'm not in full gear, I just listen to it, just cruising down there, just seeing who's paying attention.
So what do you think of the various sequels they've done?
Well, Ghostbusters 2 obviously wasn't very successful at the
Yeah,
box office. It wasn't very well received. And that was at the current time. Now, over the years, obviously, there's been a fan base
Yeah,
that has
there's a
obviously just
yeah,
grown with it. And of course, as a Ghostbusters fan, you're going to love
yeah,
Ghostbusters 2.
yeah.
It has the original cast, and it's still a great story. I think what kind of it makes it a lot different than the first one, obviously, is the music.
Mhm.
I mean, Elmer Bernstein with Ghostbusters 1984, that music is iconic with the whole atmosphere of the film. But when Ghostbusters 2 came around, it took a completely different turn. And obviously, it was because they were trying to make it more kid friendly,
Yeah.
because at that point, the real Ghostbusters had already come
Mhm.
out. So they're trying not to make it as scary.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know about you, but even as a kid, Janos walking in the hall with his eyes glowing was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
And then the bathtub trying to eat you.
Yeah.
Um, but it was Ghostbusters. And I mean, I love it. The 2016 reboot, I do not care for.
See, I honestly, I felt the comedy was good. The acting was good. The comedy was good. The action scenes just did not work at all. There was like not a moment I believed in any of the action scenes.
Well, see,
I find the ladies hilarious.
and they
But
normally are.
yeah,
But for me, I just think that the specific writing, and I think that's where a lot of it failed at the box office, was because Paul took the film and reshot a lot and then marketed the crap out of it. And he wasted more money than what could be pulled in.
see, I felt like they shouldn't have gone for a reboot. They should have made it a continuation and have it already exist in the universe where the Ghostbusters are. And let's say it's 30 years later and the Ghostbusters have retired and the ghost problem seems to have gone away. And one of the ladies could be Winston's niece or something. And when all of a sudden ghosts pop up, she feels the need to get her friends together, and you could have done that,
Yeah,
and I
see,
think it would have been successful.
I absolutely agree. I just think the effects too were
Yeah.
very cheesy. I
Yeah.
mean, if you've seen the live action Scooby Doo,
Oh yeah.
those ghosts remind me of that because of how they looked. Now, of course, a lot of people, not to get political, a lot of people were talking about it because it's women.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with that. For me, it's all about writing, story, delivery, and everything in between that. The women normally, Saturday Night Live, other films, they're awesome. I mean, they're funny. Like Kristen Wiig, I mean,
Mhm.
she's funny.
Oh, I can watch her in just about anything.
She is
Honestly,
funny.
yeah.
But I just didn't believe the characters in that film. I just couldn't believe it. And it was way too kooky and goofy than there was no realistic tone to
Mhm.
it. Like, for example, the proton pack scene when they're first testing him out. I mean,
Oh, when it lifts her off the
yeah,
ground. Yes, yeah, and that's one of my things with the action. That didn't play. It didn't play as
obviously,
action.
she would have actually broken her spine
Yeah.
multiple times, and it took way too long for testing. Whereas in 1984, it's made very clear in the elevator for their first bus, they've never tested it.
Mhm.
He blames himself, and so does Venkman. And he's like, no use to worry about it now. Switch me on. Switch it on. The sound itself, I mean, when it boots up, what do they all do? What makes it so funny? They move closer to the wall of the elevator. Like that's going to do something. But that's what makes it so funny. And it was just like in 12 seconds, you learned everything.
Yeah.
You just knew they were nuclear, they were very volatile and dangerous.
Yeah.
It's what made it funny. Now Afterlife, I absolutely loved Afterlife. I felt it was very true to the source material, and you had Jason Reitman.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the mix of practical and CG effects in it, and that's where I think Ghostbusters really shines, is the practical effects
Yes.
side of it.
Yes.
It was really fun to watch, and I just thought, what better way to introduce a new generation of Ghostbusters than have it be someone who may be related to one of
Mhm.
the very silent type Ghostbusters, Egon Spengler. And of course, I love Egon. I mean, I love them all, but I mean, there's just something special about Egon that was just, I think, just captivated audiences. And that's why a lot of people love Afterlife. And McKenna Grace as Egon's niece, I mean, she portrayed those mannerisms of Egon of Harold Ramis so well.
Mhm.
But but the story made sense, and the actors worked off each other well. It was
Mhm.
perfect timing. It was a lot of what Ghostbusters is and
Mhm.
should be, and that's what a lot of people really loved about it.
So I've always been fascinated by the fact that the original idea for Ghostbusters was like much much bigger. The original script, what was it? Aykroyd said at one point that in '84 it would have cost $200 million to film, something like that. It was insane.
Yes.
Like the Stay Puft Man is like a minor monster in that version, and that originally he had written it for oh my brain, Belushi, for Belushi to be in it before he had passed away. I've always been fascinated what that would have been like.
Yeah, there were a few different drafts from uh, Dan, and obviously we'll never know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for example, one of the looks of
Mhm.
the Ecto One was originally supposed to be black,
Mhm.
and it was going to have purple lights, but it was still going to be a 59 millimeter Cadillac.
Yeah.
It was always going to be that. That's what Dan had in mind. He envisioned it. It was going to be that, but it was going to be black. Well, they had to change it to white because obviously for the night shots,
Mhm.
they wouldn't have been able to pick that up.
Yeah.
But that's why I tried to, at least with my black Ecto, was to kind of recreate that. I was wanting to put purple lights on it as a reference and kind of a tribute to that original concept. But purple LEDs just are very, I don't know if it's just one of those things that a lot of people just like, why would we make purple
Yeah.
LEDs? So, of course, I had to go with green.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, there were a lot of different things in Dan's mind, and he had a vision of what he wanted. He still made sure that it had actual science behind it. I mean, you get him in a room and you ask him what every single part of this is,
Mhm.
what the PKE meter does, every single bit of part of it, what it's supposed to do. And even on the ecto on the roof, he'll tell you everything and exactly how it works.
Mhm.
And there's actual science behind it, which is fascinating to know that this stuff could actually exist.
Yeah. So moving to this stuff actually existing, when did you first get into cosplaying? How long have you been doing that?
Well, I guess around 2008, 2009 is when I was
Okay.
really wanting to start.
Mm.
I knew I wanted to be, because I still loved Ghostbusters at that time, and I was like thinking to myself, I really want to be a Ghostbuster,
Mm.
but I didn't know at that time how to go about it.
Mm.
And of course, it was still um, late. It was still close to 2010 around
Mm.
that time. So Facebook it wasn't really an option for me because I had no idea that there were Ghostbusters groups
Mhm.
online, that there are ways to have your proton pack built and stuff like that. All I knew was that there was a pack that was released by Novos, and they had a pack that was $1,000, and I was working a part-time job at the time, and I was only making 7 something an
Mhm.
hour. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to afford that, but I knew I was like, I guess I'll never be a Ghostbuster, but I really want to be one. Flash forward to years later, a couple years ago, I get a job in the O show, and I'm starting to look at different possibilities to be a Ghostbuster, and I'm looking at uh, those Facebook groups around.
Mm.
Oh, there's a whole community. I mean, there's everything.
Yeah.
And I found out that somebody could actually uh, build one for me.
Mhm.
So I commissioned to have one built.
Mhm.
It was $1,200,
Mhm.
but it was much cheaper than a Novos.
Yeah.
And so this one's 12. I paid $1,200 to have this built. Um, And a lot of people tend to do that anyway,
Yeah.
because some people just like me don't have the knowledge and
Mhm.
a shed or
Yeah.
a garage to build their own stuff. So I built mine, but in between that time though, I was putting together my whole suit, and I knew I had a black car. Now at that time, I had started. I had begun um, starting to build my Ecto, put it together, and of course, it was still my Chevy Impala. Yeah. But all I did was buy a kit of logos and decals and put it on there. Now, some of them are still on, but a majority of them are gone and replaced. And I knew, it's like, yeah, this is good. So then I just bought a beacon at Walmart for like 15 bucks and stuck it on the roof. And it's just this little puny beacon that sits on the top. And I just look on Amazon. I get myself a flight suit that's close to representation as being accurate as possible. I get things piecemeal. Just a lot of this stuff is just over a period of time, and just putting it together. And then eventually, when I had it all, I felt like I was a Ghostbuster. Now, a lot of people, some groups, because there's a lot of Ghostbusters franchises out there, including Ghostbusters of the Ozarks, which is one I'm a part of, who are out in Springfield. A lot of groups don't require you to have a proton pack. Yeah. And then if you do have a proton pack, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 scale screen accurate. It can be, I don't know if you know about the Rubies, the Halloween store, the Rubies and stuff, the proton packs. They're
I've seen them. Yeah.
Well, some people work on those and they'll add new lighting kits to it and stuff, but obviously those are smaller. And then some people don't have them at all. But me, I knew. I mean, Eddie, who's one of the co-founder of Ghostbusters of the Ozarks, he was saying, you don't need a proton pack to be part of the group. I was determined to get a proton pack, and I was adamant to get one. And that's one of the photos that I took when I was at the car show in July of 2020, when I met up with them for the first time, and I tried on Eddie's proton pack. And he was telling me, you don't need a proton pack. But as soon as I tried it on, I had that urge. I was like, now I'm more determined than ever. I've got to have a pack. For me anyway, I don't feel like, and part of the reason is because I am a bit OCD. Well, not a bit, I'd say a lot OCD. But I had to have one. So I ended up getting one. And I slowly, over the years, started creating this Ecto 8. Started coming up with new designs for it, and really kind of took a concept in my head, knew that what's a roof, but it's small. I can't put a big rack on it. I've got to keep whatever components I put on there small enough. So I got a miniature, it's a portable RV satellite and put it on top. And it was, me and my dad, we just put this thing together. And of course, I didn't want to drill into the roof. So what I did was I came up with a solution to use magnets and just attach them to the bottom of the rack. So now I can drive down the road and even the highway, super high speeds, and it doesn't even move or anything. And it's sturdy, but I do need to reinforce it. I mean, the weather's been bad, so obviously I want to remove everything, but it's a lot of work.
How much does the proton pack weigh? How heavy is that bad boy?
I'd say that pack, it's about 45 pounds.
Oh,
35,
okay.
45
That's
pounds.
okay. That's a load then. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're at a con for like 10 plus hours,
So
starts to weigh on you.
Do you go to a lot of conventions?
I try to make it to a lot of them. Unfortunately, a lot of them are out in Springfield. And with gas being the way it is, it's hard to make it all the way there. But I try to make it when I can. We just had a con in Neosho. There was the Neosho Art Con. I did make it out to that. But I try to make it out as much as I can. And I meant to, and completely forgot about it, the St. Patty's Day Parade in Springfield went on this past weekend. Yeah. I meant to go to that, but we were having issues with my grandma this past week. So I completely threw my mind, and she's actually, Ghostbusters and her are really one of the main reasons on why it kind of just behind the whole making and motivation behind this.
how's it playing with your grandmother? How is she?
Well, when I was in high school, I was bullied a lot.
Okay.
I was going through a lot of different things, but I suffer with depression, and it gets very severe, and many people with depression can tell you you don't feel motivated to do anything. You just feel numb.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go and stay the night at my grandma's apartment. And one thing about my grandma was she was always concerned about me, always loved me, and do things for me. And I'd sit there, and I actually have the real Ghostbusters DVD box set,
Hmm.
and it was the Firehouse box set. A lot of people, if you look it up, it's way more expensive than when it cost when
Yeah.
I originally bought it. But I'd watch it, and it it take me out of that
Mm-hmm.
realm. It put me in that universe. My grandma would come over, sit down. She'd kind of watch it with me and start talking to me, and then I'd start opening up.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have fun watching it and watch Ghostbusters. And of course, when I was even a little kid, I'd watch Ghostbusters at her house. But she was always there and always would come over and sit down next to me and watch it with me. And she would help me open up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll, and I feel like because of her, Ghostbusters has brought me joy.
Mm-hmm.
She helped me really open up to that joy, and just it's just kind of a dance, all Ghostbusters and the grandma all just kind of coinciding and coming together, and then just pulling me out of it. And of course, my parents were always there. They were supportive of me throughout everything and my Ghostbusters stuff. But what really made me determine that I had to start getting into Ghostbusters gear was because when we found out she was in decline because of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted, and she knew I wanted to be a Ghostbuster. So I was trying to get everything as fast as I could together, because at that point she was already placed in a nursing home and she's still there now. And I was trying to get everything together so that I could walk in as a Ghostbuster when she was still somewhat lucid,
Yeah. Yeah.
but she'd see me, her grandson, finally a Ghostbuster.
That's awesome.
And of course, uh, that was around the time COVID happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then I couldn't go in to see her.
Mm-hmm.
And then because that stretch of time that I couldn't actually go anywhere and go see her, she accelerated fast.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I did go back, she had no recollection of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So
I hate to hear that.
yeah, and years later, she's still suffering with it, still in decline, even worse than before. She, but because of the joy and stuff that she's brought me and that helped me, and even though she can't remember anything,
Yeah.
she can't remember those moments that we shared, all those special times we were laughing, talking. So as a way of trying to be as thankful as I can to that, I try to take what she put on me as that joy and project it onto others as well.
So
So
would you say that more than just being a hobby, this is kind of a therapy, a self care for you?
absolutely.
Do you think it makes you a better person? Do you think it?
Um, I don't know in eyes of others. I know for me, I feel like it makes me a better person than myself, because I feel like I'm helping. I could be helping somebody else that could be going through the same issue that I was going
Yeah.
through. Who knows? I mean, that one person that may be walking over to me at the gas station, telling me, "Hey, man, I love your car," or "That's awesome." I try to make their day, make them smile, because who knows? They could be
Yeah.
going through something and hiding it.
Yeah.
But that little, I could maybe put a little spark of something in there to help them keep to keep just moving forward, to keep going.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. It really is.
And so I don't look at myself as a better person, but I look at as somebody that would make my grandma proud. I mean, I know my parents are proud of me. I mean, they think I'm goofy going around, and but they understand it. They understand everything behind it, and it absolutely has been a therapy. I mean, whenever I go out, everything that was on my mind is gone, and I can't explain it. I just get into full. I'm not going as a specific character. I'm going as myself because I have a backstory. I have a very hard backstory. It's very difficult and stuff. I've suffered with depression, but I've got a backstory, and I became a Ghostbuster because of my backstory, and I feel like I don't want to be anybody else but me.
Yeah.
So I really just like to give people that and project that onto them. You know, if me and my grandma were able to have fun and laugh and come out of that, then I want to give that back. I want to be that person. I want to, if she can't remember it, but I can, and I'm going to make sure that that stays alive.
Wonderful. I like that. I like that a lot. So, have you gotten to meet any of the original Ghostbusters?
No.
No.
I really, really want to. So bad. Now, Eddie, co-founder of Ghostbusters of the Ozarks, he's met Ernie Hudson.
Okay.
And of course, I would love to meet any of them.
Yeah.
I would love to meet Ernie Hudson. I mean, Ernie Hudson, people tell me, those who have met him say he's just an all-around great guy. He's awesome.
I think everything I've ever heard is is that he's down to earth, very
Absolutely.
much, just treats fans just really well.
Yeah, I mean, and he really is the embodiment of all of us fans.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is just like us, more in more ways than one. And I would love to meet him. I'd love to meet Dan. I'd love to meet Bill, obviously. Now Harold, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet Harold. I would have loved to have met him. But
Well,
yeah,
of course, Annie Potts, like 10-year-old me, would have died to meet Annie Potts because I was in love with her.
I know a lot of people were. Yeah. Yeah, and and that just goes back because it's like I would love to be able to meet one of them before everything happened with my grandma, to tell her that, because she'd see how the joy I am, that I'd be in. And that's why, this past week, she had some sort of cardiac event. We didn't know what it was. We thought we were going to lose her that night. It was, my mom was tore up because it's my mother. It's on my mother's side. My grandma is. And we thought we were going to lose her. So far, she's bounced back. That doesn't mean anything yet, but she kept crying out in pain, that she was in pain. Of course, she's very close to God, but of course, she doesn't remember any of that. But the first time she used God in years, she said, "Oh God, help me," and then she said, "I got to go to heaven." And of course, that was just tearing us up. But yeah, so everything that was happening this past week, me and help consoling my mom, it was just really hard on us, and it obviously threw my mind off. Completely forgot about the St. Patty's Day parade, and but it's a lot of fun. I do love it.
Yeah. So what's your next big thing that you're going to do? You have an event you're going to, or?
I don't have anything coming up specifically. Now I know the next big thing I'd love to do is redo my Ecto.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, the Ecto has gone through different revisions. The pinstriping's changed.
Real quick. So how long have you been working on the car?
Oh, you never stop working on it. Any Ghostbuster who has an Ecto will tell you, you never stop working on it. It's a constant maintenance process. It's something that will take your time all the time, especially if it's an everyday drive, like if it's your daily driver, like mine is. I've had so many things done to that car. I mean, I've had to have the wheel hub assembly on the front passenger side changed out. Sounded like a helicopter going around when I was driving down the road at one point. I still have to replace the solenoid. I had to have the starter replaced. A few months after I bought the car, I actually had to have the transmission rebuilt.
Oh.
Yeah. $2,400 for that.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, transmission, the warranty was up, and then
Mhm.
the transmission had issues again.
Oh.
Luckily, though, there was a great mechanic that helped me in here in Joplin. Only charged me $200,
Oh,
and
okay.
he fixed it up.
Nice.
200, $300.
Nice.
And he was able to. It was just an issue with the seal.
Yeah.
But I've had so many things that I've had to fix on that car, and it's hard to remember them all. But the pinstriping, the red stripes on there, if you see throughout the photos, you'll see that sometimes those change. It's because I've had issues where whatever I bought sun bleached, and I
Okay.
had to remove it and then try to put
Mhm.
something else in. And then the one big pinstripe that I had from the tail light all the way to the end to the front of the car, I did that a day before we were supposed to go to the premiere for the Branson premiere of Ghostbusters Afterlife. I did that the night before. I was in a storage container, and I took spray paint vinyl, and I wrapped the whole car so that I could just work on this pinstriping.
Mhm.
And then I sprayed it, and of course it was all messy and everything else. Got it all fixed and everything, and then you see the next night the results of it, and you see that it looks really nice. And Eddie and the group were telling me, "Oh, that looks really good." And of course, some of it's already was starting to peel. And of course, now there's hardly anything left on it. I mean, I still have to redo and reinforce the roof rack now. I mean, some things are the wood basket in it starting to warp and come apart. So, I mean, it is a constant maintenance process. If you ever want to make an Ecto, don't make it your daily driver, and do not let it sit in the rain or anything. Put a tarp over it or something. It's gonna ruin it. I'm telling you, it's an everyday thing worrying about the vehicle.
Oh, I bet.
Especially when it's your only car. But no matter, even when the roof rack's not on it and it's still not in its prettiest shape. I mean, right now it's on its prettiest shape, but you look at the photos, you see its potential. You've seen the potential it has. It looks beautiful. So don't judge a book by its cover, that old saying, But even when it's not up to par, people still come over. Every single day, and I'm not even joking. Even my mom drives it by herself. Even if I'm not in get up or anything. I love your car. I mean, it's all the time. And
okay, you've seen the Mystery Machine driving around town, right?
yes.
Do you know who has that?
I don't.
See, because the two of you should get together and just like show up someplace and get the Scooby Gang and the Ghostbusters jumping out and running in, because everybody will freak out.
Well, the difference is they don't deal with real ghosts.
Yeah.
We do, But yeah, no, but I did see them a couple years ago when I went to the drive-in. They had shown up at the drive-in with theirs at this Route 66 drive-in. Love that theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, when I first got the roof rack together, we were getting it ready we almost had it complete. We had a week left until the Hotel of Terror in Springfield, Missouri, which unfortunately is going through an issue with the city right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. They're wanting to tear it down to expand the road.
Oh.
And they're wanting them to relocate. It's ridiculous. But we were doing a event there, and my dad and I had less than a week left. We were getting everything situated and ready. On the day of, we were just tightening up actual butterfly nuts on it. By the time we got it done, I was like, all right, I'm going. So then I head there, and I missed the first Ghostbusters movie because they were projecting it on the wall beside the building. And but I was there for the rest of it, and it was a blast. But then that's when I knew, all right, I'm a part of this now. This is awesome, and I absolutely enjoy it. It's
so
fun.
do you plan to do this until the grave? Just never give it up?
That's far too early to say. I mean, who knows? I may still come back after I'm dead. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I guess
just do it as long as it brings you joy.
Yeah, just do it as long as it brings me joy. I mean, I've been dealing with some issues with my foot as well. So this, kind of takes my mind off of that
Yeah.
because I was having this weird, it, it's a cancerous type thing. If I don't get it removed, it could come back and then more aggressive, and then I might actually have to remove my leg. So it's pretty scary stuff, and I actually have to get in touch with them to send that test over to make sure they find out exactly if they got it all or where it's at. But I'm planning on doing as much as I can.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd ever stop, honestly. I mean, like I said, it's like you said, it's like a therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems to be like a drug. Even when I was bullied in high school, what always kept me, my drug was playing my keyboard, taking my mind off everything. And that was my outlet. And now this is another outlet. But this is a social outlet that lets me kind of project everything to others who may be going through the same thing.
Okay.
And so I guess as long as I feel needed, I'll keep doing it.
All right. Well, I think we always need a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
So,
well, just like we always need police, we always need firefighters, and we always need parents and be able to guide us down the right way. And I thank the Lord every day. My parents were able to guide me through the life I have now, and my grandma has been there, and now I'm a full-fledged Ghostbuster, and I really do enjoy it.
outstanding. So, do you have a website or anything where people can?
I've got a regular Facebook.
Okay.
A lot of people get in touch with me on there.
Okay.
And of course, my group that I'm with has a Facebook as well.
Okay.
Ghostbusters of the Ozarks.
Let's make sure we get those up and get them on the show notes, Joey. Okay, Joey?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I've actually gone in store just random dressed as a Ghostbuster and seen people's looks.
That would be awesome.
Oh, I've gone with the proton pack in
Yeah.
too, and I think I've seen people just out of the corner of my eye just taking photos.
Yeah.
And then I've actually had people ask me if I was a taxi.
Really?
Yes. I don't know where they got that.
That would be odd. I don't think.
Well, they go, "Are you a cab? Are you a taxi?" I look at them and I go, "In a manner of speaking, but for the afterlife."
Nice. My passengers are all dead.
I've actually had people ask me if I was law enforcement, and I kind of gave them the same answer. I said, "Yeah, for ghosts." I mean, and I've had people actually come up and tell me that their place is haunted and they want my number, and they actually legit think I'm a real Ghostbuster. That's like, I'd love to help you. I really love to. But I'm able to refer them to the Carthage Paranormal Society because they actually help with that stuff. But I don't know. And I've seen people that come up to me and ask me, "What is this? Like, what does this mean?" You've never seen a movie? You're older than I am. You've never seen Ghostbusters? I mean, 3-year-old kids know what I am.
Yeah. There are people out there that are completely culturally unaware, and I don't know how it happens.
I don't know either. They're literally living under a rock at this point.
Yeah.
Now, some of them I can understand. Maybe they just don't watch TV. They have more important things to do. And I understand that stuff. I mean, maybe they're not aware. But for those that watch movies and stuff and they still don't know, like, you don't know one of the best 80s movies of all time, like, and you're a fan of film, you really don't know.
In the English speaking world, because
yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is, Ghostbusters is global.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's franchises all over the world, and of course, they're all over the United States. I mean, we're everywhere. I mean, Ghostbusters has grown, and it's like the 501st Legion, except a lot of the groups in the world are not strict. A lot of the Ghostbusters groups are not strict, whereas the 501st Legion, very strict. It has to be this accurate. You have to have exactly this belt notch right here.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have it made out of this material. It has to be this high, you know. They're very strict in terms of that. And I get it for authenticity.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that makes it impossible for a lot of people to actually take part.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Whereas Ghostbusters is for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have a proton pack to be a Ghostbuster. And you can wear the Ruby's Ghostbusters proton pack if you want. But now, granted, not to say that there aren't groups out there that aren't strict. Every group has its own rules, set of rules. Mine doesn't have rules as such to be film accurate, to be, you have to have a pack. I mean, I've got traps. A buddy of mine in the UK is actually building some traps for me that actually smoke and make noise, and he's building me a PKE meter that actually has the function of afterlife, where it actually comes out and then you press a button and it springs forward and extends forward to kind of do the zapping thing, the ghost taser, you know. But I've got you know, Ghostbuster always they always update their arsenal. To each their own with what they want to get. But a lot of Ghostbusters fans will get what they get when they can get it, and if they can get it. And that's what I think the beauty of it is. And a lot of people will look at it and like, what is this? And they'll look at something that one of their Ghostbusters community friends have, and they'll look at it and they'll go, wow, I really would love to have one. Well, that community member could help them get one or do something nice for them. And teach them about stuff. I mean, that's the beautiful part about the community. I mean, on Facebook, they're everywhere. People 3D print things now because 3D printing is big now.
Yeah, that's changing everything for stuff like cosplaying.
Yeah. I mean, back then, I mean, it was hard to really find proton packs and to really create anything like that. I mean, you had to makeshift your own stuff. And it was a lot more expensive because if somebody had you make one, well, they'd have to make it from scratch parts.
Yeah.
Now it's, you know, people have their own resin printers, their own, they can actually make, they have plastic machines now. They can make actual shells and castings now for people.
Yeah.
It's a lot more accessible now. So, and now the HasLab Egon Spengler Proton Pack came out from Hasbro. I actually have one. Didn't bring it today because I'm working on it just like everybody else. But I'm leaving mine to be like Spengler, like the actual pack in the film. Where a lot of people are converting theirs to an 89 or an 84 pack. This one's more of an 89. You've got that, and you can tell by the ribbon cable here. This is an 89 ribbon cable. The bumper is a lot closer to the cyclotron. And you'll notice here the clamp is facing downward, just like there. But there, I mean, there's a lot of other things too that can tell you it's an 89. But only, I guess, a Ghostbusters connoisseur would be able to tell you that.
Yeah, most people are just going to go, ooh, cool, Ghostbusters.
They'll know, all they know is it's a proton pack.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing too, is like if there's something inaccurate on the pack, you may know about it, but the average person isn't going to know.
Yeah,
they're not going to know the difference. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'd have to make it accurate because I'm OCD. That's going to be bugging me. But everybody else, though, they're just going to walk by it and what? Wow, that's really cool. They're not going to know it's inaccurate.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to notice the inaccuracies, the imperfect mold parts or anything. And they see that's the part too, is it's not supposed to look perfect. No, I mean,
it should look used.
Exactly.
First of all, it was DIY. In the movie, they built that stuff themselves. They didn't, and they didn't have the most high-tech facilities to do it. And then it's used. It's beat up.
Exactly. You know, Egon is they're supposed to weld these parts together. It's all just makeshift. It's all homemade stuff. These guys are amateur engineers. And they're making this stuff. And that's why, you know, the uniform looks baggy. You know, it's not supposed to be tailored to them. It's supposed to be like they went out and got these old uniforms and it's all supposed to look like that. And that's what the beauty part of it is you can make anything you want as a Ghostbuster. And that's what Dan even said. He said, the imperfections is what makes it
Mhm.
Ghostbusters, because these aren't
Well, that's
high-tech
part of the
scientists.
yeah, that's part of
Exactly.
the world building.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything looks like real world stuff. It doesn't look like fashion designers came and made costumes for them. It looks like they went down to the farm store and got
Yeah, an army
coveralls, and
surplus or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, and this right here, I mean, it's like they used in the film an MT500. That's an actual MT500 right there. And of
Oh,
course,
nice.
that's heavy. That
Yeah.
doesn't even have the battery in it.
Jeez.
And but that's a real MT500. Now, I didn't have to go for accuracy there, but
Yeah.
I did. And I
Was it
guess
difficult to track one of those down?
at the time it wasn't. I was able to find it on eBay. I mean, I found a couple of this stuff on eBay, but I was able to find this on eBay. I don't have the right holster size for it, although somebody makes a holster now for it. But at the time, Ghostbusters was just starting to pick up speed
Mm-hmm.
again. And but I guess now, I haven't looked, but from what I've seen on the Ghostbusters fan groups page and stuff, a lot of people are really wanting to buy those walkies,
Mm-hmm.
and people are even 3D printing them
Okay.
to have the walkie because
Yeah.
they want the accurate walkie.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. I guess now it's a gem.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, but I know for a fact this right here, this is a gem. This is from Matty Collector. The PKE meter came out years ago, and this thing can go for hundreds of dollars now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it came out, I don't know what the original price was for it, but I can guarantee you, it is not what people are selling it for now, which is up to $500, $600 now. But it's the rubies in Halloween costume stores. PK mirrors don't compare with this.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a lot more accurate, and I've actually got a more accurate one, like I said, from a UK buddy, building me one that's a lot more accurate. That has the actual sounds to it.
Nice.
But see, but that's me. That's my preference. What I'd rather have. Anybody can have anything they want.
Yeah.
And be what they want to be. I mean, I've seen people put actual 2-liter bottles on the sides of theirs, supposed to be representing a slime tank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do what you want. It's everybody can be their own Ghostbuster,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I love about the community is it's anybody, just anybody, and that's why
Open
I
to
love
all.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
We will get your all your info and stuff up in our show notes and on our website.
All right.
And Joey will reach out and let you know when this is up online.
All right.